What if Anakin killed Dooku by himself on Geonosis? What would have happened then? We pick up with Anakin and Obi-Wan chasing Dooku to his ship. Let's begin. The hangar doors blast open. Obi-Wan and Anakin's boots scrape against metal, echoing through the vast chamber. Dooku stands by his solar sailor, its sail half unfurled, bathed in the red Geonosian light. We'll take him together, Obi-Wan starts, but Anakin's rage explodes. I'll take him now, Anakin snarls. The memory of sand, blood, and Tusken screams floods his mind. In one fluid motion, he hurls his blue saber directly at Dooku, the blade rocketing through the air with a rising pitch as it spins toward the Count's chest. Dooku's eyes narrow before his curved hilt ignites, crimson blade deflecting the thrown saber with a classical Makashi parry. But Anakin's already moving. Time slows. His right fist rockets toward Dooku's jaw as the Count's fingers rise for force lightning. Dooku shifts his head with surgical precision. The lightning crackles but finds no target. Anakin's already ducking, his left hand calling his saber back. The force pull is violent, desperate. The blade snaps back into his palm with a solid impact as he drives upward. The duel erupts in earnest, their sabers clashing in a storm of blue and red energy. Dooku's Makashi form flows like water. His blade traces perfect circles, each parry producing a different pitched hum against Anakin's raw power strikes. The Padawan's Gemso is all aggression, each strike meant to break through. Their sabers lock with a sustained high-frequency shriek. Anakin pushes down, muscles straining, but Dooku's perfect positioning and skill allows him to hold the lock with minimal effort. Obi-Wan entered the fray. His Sorasu defense creates a sphere of light, blade moving in tight, efficient arcs. Where Anakin attacks like a rancor, Obi-Wan defends like a Nexu. The three duelists accelerate to blinding speeds. Dooku parries high, riposte low, sidesteps, thrusts. His blade work is like a calculated equation, decades of experience against raw talent and disciplined defense. Anakin overextends, a classic Form 5 weakness. His overhead strike leaves his center exposed. Dooku's blade flicks like a serpent's tongue, but Obi-Wan's saber intercepts with a thunderous crash. The Count flows with the movement, turning defense to attack. His blade slides down Obi-Wan's with a rising whine, angles slightly, and slices through thigh muscle. As Kenobi stumbles, a force push rockets him into the Durasteel wall. His saber spins away with a clattering echo. Obi-Wan, Anakin's voice cracks. His master's pain ripples through their bond. With his remaining strength, Obi-Wan force pushes his lightsaber toward his Padawan. Time crystallizes. Anakin's left hand snags the second saber mid-flight. His Form 5 transforms into something primal, raw Gemso power amplified by Jarkai aggression. Their first exchange splits the air with ascending and descending pitches as blades weave past each other. Dooku's crimson saber hums past Anakin's ear, close enough that the Padawan feels his eardrum vibrate from the proximity. Anakin counters with a strike that misses Dooku's neck by millimeters. The Count can feel his skin tighten from the heat, smell the ozone as the blade parts the air where his throat had been a fraction of a second before. Their sabers clash in a lightning exchange. Each near miss generates its own unique sound, high whines for glancing angles, deep thrums for direct passes. The air between them becomes superheated, creating a rippling effect visible to the eye. The battle accelerates further. A series of strikes from Dooku forces Anakin to dodge with increasing desperation. Each near miss leaves a trail of ionized air that makes Anakin's skin tingle. One thrust passes his face so close that he feels his eyebrows heat up, smells the sharp scent of singed hair. Then Dooku feels it, a tremor in the Force, ancient, powerful, approaching. Master Yoda. His focus wavers for just a heartbeat. Anakin's blades move in perfect symmetry, a Jarkai scissoring strike. The air shrieks as both blades close like scissors. Before Dooku can recover his guard, both hands fall to the floor, his deactivated saber still clutched in their grip. And then, in one fluid motion, Anakin drives both sabers through Dooku's midsection. The Count's eyes widen in shock and pain. Dooku slumps to his knees, life already fading from his eyes. Anakin feels it then, the ancient presence approaching. He turns to see Master Yoda entering the hangar, moving with urgency toward his former apprentice. Something primal in Anakin recoils at the sight. He withdraws his blades and backs away, retreating to where Obi-Wan lies against the wall, still dazed from the impact. Yoda approaches Dooku, who has slumped to his knees. The Count's breathing comes in ragged gasps, his vision beginning to blur at the edges. His mind races, thoughts becoming increasingly scattered as his blood pressure drops. "My old Padawan," Yoda says softly, his ears drooping with genuine sadness. Dooku's mind whirls with conflicting impulses. He could tell them about Sidious, about Palpatine, but images flash through his mind. the corruption he fought against, the bureaucracy that strangled reform. Even now, at the end, his idealism refuses to die. What I told Obi-Wan, Dooku's voice comes weak but clear, is true. The Republic is under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith. Tell us more, you must. Yoda leans closer, sensing the gravity of the moment. But Dooku's thoughts are fragmenting now. The room seems to spin, faces blending together. Past and present blur. The Jedi Temple, Sereno, Qui-Gon's training, Sidious's lightning. His lips move, forming words that take all his remaining strength to voice. The Republic, he gasps, his usually precise diction failing, died with Qui-Gon. In his fading consciousness, a final bitter irony surfaces. How Palpatine's rise to Supreme Chancellor had coincided with his former apprentice's death, the true beginning of the end. His eyes glaze over, fixed on some distant point only he can see. The Count of Sereno, former Jedi Master and Dark Lord of the Sith, slumps forward, taking the full truth about Sidious to his grave. In the aftermath of Dooku's death, the Jedi Council chamber hung heavy with contemplation. The discovery of the Geonosian superweapon plans only added gravity to an already momentous situation. Before them lay decisions that would reshape both the Order and their approach to the growing darkness. Killed a Sith Lord, young Skywalker has, Yoda stated, his clawed hands folded in his lap. A feat not easily accomplished. Grant him the rank of knight, we must, Yoda continued. Proven himself in trial by combat, he has. Obi-Wan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. While his own elevation to knighthood had come after defeating Darth Maul, something about Anakin's victory felt different. The rage he had sensed. Still, he could not voice these concerns without hypocrisy. The matter of Anakin's elevation, however, was overshadowed by Dooku's final words. Unlike claims made in battle that might be dismissed as manipulation, these were the dying words of a Jedi Master speaking to Yoda, his old mentor. The truth of his warning resonated differently. A Sith Lord controlling the Republic, Mace Windu mused, his fingers steepled. Through legal means, not conquest. It fits the pattern established since Bane. Patience, deception, the long game. What troubles me, Ki-Adi-Mundi added, is Dooku's reference to Qui-Gon. His death marked the beginning of these dark events, the emergence of the Sith, the growing shadows in the Force. Yoda contemplated the layers of meaning in his former apprentice's last words. The possibilities were disturbing, a warning about Anakin's training, a reference to Palpatine's rise, or something else entirely that they had yet to grasp. Take action we must, Yoda declared, but carefully, secretly. Closer than we realize, the Sith Lord may be. The Jedi shadows, Mace Windu suggested, his tone measured. They were created for exactly this purpose, to root out dark side influences in complete secrecy. The council members exchanged knowing looks. The shadows had long served as the Order's covert operatives, specialized Jedi trained in stealth and infiltration. Their primary mission had always been to seek and destroy Sith artifacts and dark side practitioners. Now they would be tasked with something far more delicate, infiltrating the upper echelons of the Republic hierarchy. Agreed, Yoda nodded. Dispatch the shadows we will, into the Senate, into the bureaucracy, into all levels of government. The council chamber fell silent as the members contemplated the path ahead. In his private chambers, Darth Sidious coped and seethed. Dooku's premature death had forced him to accelerate his timetable, and worse, the weapon schematics had fallen into Jedi hands. The boy had exceeded expectations, perhaps dangerously so. To kill a Sith Lord while still a Padawan, it spoke to a power that both thrilled and concerned him. The Separatist movement now required his direct hand. Grievous, for all his martial prowess, was a blunt instrument, effective at spreading terror and commanding armies, but lacking the political finesse that Dooku had provided. Still, the war had to begin. Sidious orchestrated Grievous's first major offensive personally, choosing targets that would incite the maximum outrage across the Republic. The delay caused by Dooku's death actually served some purpose. The longer wait for war had only made the Senate more desperate for decisive action when it finally came. But young Skywalker, that required more delicate handling. The boy had proven himself far more dangerous than anticipated. The Chosen One prophecy hung like a shadow over Sidious's plans. He had always intended to turn the prophecy to his advantage, but now he wondered if its power might prove as unpredictable as Plagueis' experiments with midi-chlorians. At least he still held one crucial advantage: Anakin's secret marriage to Senator Amidala. That beautiful weakness, that desperate need for attachment, it would be his key to manipulating Skywalker. Sidious allowed himself a thin smile as he gazed out over the Coruscant skyline. The Force still flowed dark and sweet with possibility. He had orchestrated this grand plan for decades. A few complications would not derail it. Let the Jedi have their superweapon plans. Let them grow suspicious. Soon it wouldn't matter. But there was an unfamiliar sensation nagging at the edge of his awareness. Not quite doubt, but something close to it. He dismissed it with a snarl. The dark side was with him. The Jedi would fall. The Republic would become his empire. And Skywalker would be his apprentice. The Clone Wars unfolded differently without Dooku, but no less devastating. Grievous's attacks, while less sophisticated, were brutally effective under Sidious's direct guidance. Against this backdrop of chaos, two parallel stories emerged. One in the blinding light of public attention, the other in carefully maintained darkness. In the public eye, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi became the faces of the Republic's war effort. The Holonet celebrated their victories, dubbing them the hero with no fear and the negotiator. Anakin's premature elevation to knighthood only added to his legend. When Master Yoda assigned him Ahsoka Tano as a Padawan, many questioned the decision to burden their greatest warrior with an apprentice. But Yoda's wisdom ran deeper. Skywalker needed to learn responsibility, to understand the weight of guiding another life. Moreover, the ancient master knew that training a Padawan to knighthood was a traditional requirement for achieving the rank of master, a path Anakin would need to walk. But while the heroes of the Republic waged their visible war, the Jedi Shadows conducted their own silent campaign. They moved through the Senate districts like ghosts, utilizing their specialized training in force concealment. Some posed as minor bureaucrats, others as maintenance workers or cleaning staff. A few even managed to secure positions as senatorial aides, their force sensitivity carefully masked. Their methods were as varied as they were effective. They planted surveillance devices in turbolifts, frequently used by key political figures. They monitored comm frequencies and observed meeting patterns. Some shadows employed their rare ability to read psychometric impressions from objects, gathering intelligence from datapads and furniture in private offices. Others used their training in force stealth to literally hide in plain sight during crucial conversations. After 6 months of meticulous intelligence gathering, a disturbing pattern emerged. Anti-Jedi sentiment was being carefully cultivated among the Republic's elite, but not through obvious propaganda. Instead, it came through subtle suggestions, carefully placed doubts, and strategic misinformation. The Shadows traced these narrative threads, following them back through layers of intermediaries and proxy agents. The Council of First Knowledge, which directly oversaw the Shadow operations, compiled the intelligence into a disturbing picture. The anti-Jedi rhetoric originated primarily from within the Supreme Chancellor's office. His advisors, staff, and inner circle had become a nexus of subtle hostility toward the Order. When the full council convened to review the Shadow's findings, the conclusion seemed inescapable. If Dooku had spoken truth about these Sith controlling the Republic, then the evidence pointed to their influence being centered around Palpatine himself. Whether the Chancellor was aware of this influence remained unclear, but the web of anti-Jedi sentiment emanating from his office could not be ignored. This revelation led to increased surveillance of the Chancellor's activities. The Jedi Shadow's surveillance network soon identified a pattern that demanded their immediate attention. Chancellor Palpatine's peculiar interest in Anakin Skywalker. Their observers noted every chance meeting, every private conversation, every subtle manipulation. The Chosen One's prominence made him an obvious target for Sith influence, but the Chancellor's careful cultivation of their relationship suggested something far more calculated. This discovery led the Shadow Division to an unsettling conclusion. If the Sith could reach so close to the Chosen One, they might have agents within the temple itself. The division made a bold, unprecedented decision. Drawing on their ancient mandate to combat the dark side by any means necessary, they began compartmentalizing their true findings, even from the Jedi Council. Only the division's leaders, their identities carefully obscured even within the Order, knew the full scope of their operations. To the Council, they reported plausible but misleading intelligence about external threats and possible attempts to foster Republic infighting. Meanwhile, their true investigation expanded to include surveillance of Council members themselves and careful monitoring of Anakin's movements on Coruscant. Anakin's relationship to Senator Amidala was quickly confirmed. Hardly a revelation, but noteworthy as a potential vulnerability. But while the Shadows monitored through their carefully placed surveillance devices, events forced Palpatine's hand. Grievous's execution of Newt Gunray had fractured the Separatist alliance, accelerating the Supreme Chancellor's timetable. Unable to rely on prophetic visions to manipulate Anakin this time, Palpatine chose a more direct approach during their next meeting at the galaxy's Opera House. "Anakin," he said, his voice heavy with manufactured concern, "I feel I must warn you. My intelligence reports indicate the Order has been making inquiries, documentation requests from Naboo." "What documentation?" Anakin asked, tension creeping into his voice. Palpatine sighed deeply, as if pained to share this. "Marriage records, my boy, from the Lake Country. As former senator of Naboo, I still maintain certain connections. When such requests come from the Jedi Order itself, people take notice." The surveillance recording captured Anakin's sharp intake of breath, his shock evident even through audio transmission. "Do not worry, my boy," Palpatine continued soothingly. "I haven't shared this information with anyone, but I fear the Jedi may soon discover your marriage to Senator Amidala. You know their history of intolerance. 1,000 years ago, they destroyed the Sith simply for holding different beliefs. What might they do to you, to Padme's political career and life?" The Shadow operatives, watching through their carefully concealed surveillance devices, observed as Anakin's fear began to cloud his judgment, exactly as Palpatine intended. While it was clear Anakin would never turn against the Jedi simply over the revelation of his marriage or concern for Padme's political career, his deep love for her made him vulnerable. The Chancellor was planting seeds of doubt and fear. Though the specifics of Palpatine's ultimate plan remained unclear to the watching Shadows, they could see he was methodically laying groundwork to eventually turn Anakin against everything he believed in, all through exploiting his greatest weakness, his attachment to the woman he loved. But Palpatine, for all his mastery of manipulation, had no idea he was being watched. The Shadow Division's agents, specially trained in force concealment, maintained their silent vigil. They recorded every conversation, noted every manipulation, built an irrefutable case that Palpatine was actively working to turn Anakin against the Order. When they were absolutely certain of their evidence, the Shadow Division finally submitted a complete, honest report to the Council. The Council, understanding that this level of compartmentalization fell within the Shadow's ancient mandate, accepted the revelation with grave consideration rather than disappointment. The evidence was damning. Palpatine's careful manipulation of Anakin, his subtle undermining of the Order, his positioning of the young Jedi for some crucial choice, it all pointed to a level of calculation that went far beyond political maneuvering. The Council chamber fell silent after reviewing the evidence. Finally, Mace Windu spoke. "The time has come. We must confront the Chancellor directly and determine the extent of his involvement." The Council chambers had barely emptied after reviewing the Shadow Division's report when Masters Yoda, Windu, Fisto, and Kolar led a contingent of Jedi toward the executive building. They found Palpatine in his office, the Coruscant sunset painting the room in blood-red light. The Jedi Masters entered the Chancellor's office, responding to his warm greeting with polite nods. Palpatine gestured to the seats before his desk with his usual gracious demeanor. "Please make yourselves comfortable," he said, settling into his own chair. "What brings such distinguished members of the Council to my office this evening?" The Masters exchanged glances before taking their seats. A moment of carefully measured silence passed before Mace Windu leaned forward slightly. "Chancellor," he began, his tone deliberately casual yet precise, "we've come to discuss a matter of great importance." Palpatine's gentle politician's mask remained in place. "Oh, what is it, Master Windu?" "We have evidence that a Sith Lord has infiltrated the highest levels of government," Kit Fisto stated. "One who seeks to destroy the Republic from within and transform it into a Sith Empire, fulfilling the 1,000-year-old vendetta of the Sith Order we thought long dead." "Evidence," Windu continued, "that the dark side surrounds you, Chancellor. Who is controlling you?" Palpatine's eyes narrowed slightly. The Jedi were too prepared, too certain. A trial would make everything too legitimate, too legal. He needed their treasonous attack to justify Order 66. In that moment, his supreme confidence in the dark side made his decision for him. A smile twisted his features as he stood. "You speak of darkness." His voice changed, becoming something ancient and terrible. "I am the darkness. The Sith have waited 1,000 years for this moment. The great Darth Bane's vision, finally realized through me." The Force rippled as he sent the Jedi flying backward. With inhuman speed, Palpatine's crimson blade ignited, slashing through the transparasteel window. The glass shattered outward in a glittering spray as he leaped through the jagged opening onto a lower Senate platform. There, he triggered the command frequency for Order 66, but nothing happened. Only then did he realize the trap. The Shadow Division had jammed all communications in the Senate district, and across the holonet, specialized recording devices hidden in the Jedi Master's robes were now broadcasting his confession, ensuring billions heard the Supreme Chancellor admit to being Darth Sidious. Within hours, the Security Council invoked Order 65, legally removing Palpatine from office. The recording of his confession made resistance futile. Mas Amedda and other key conspirators were quickly arrested for questioning. Without Palpatine's guidance, Grievous proved incapable of holding the separatist movement together. The cyborg general's tactical brilliance couldn't compensate for his lack of political acumen, and he was eventually cornered and destroyed by Republic forces. The Kaminoan investigation into Order 66 revealed the full horror of Palpatine's planned purge, adding yet another charge to his considerable list of crimes. The former Chancellor was imprisoned in a specially prepared cell, watched constantly by both Jedi and non-Jedi guards, awaiting final judgment for his crimes against the galaxy. Peace returned gradually. The Shadow Division's role remained largely unknown to the public, exactly as they preferred. As for Anakin Skywalker, whose relationship with Palpatine had inadvertently helped expose the Sith Lord, he remained with the Order. His marriage to Senator Amidala remained officially unacknowledged. Their combined political and military influence made any action against them impractical, even if the Order had been inclined to pursue it. In the end, it was fitting that Palpatine's obsession with turning the Chosen One had led to his downfall. His own arrogance, his trust in the dark side, and his fixation on Anakin had given the Shadow Division exactly the opening they needed to expose him. The prophecy of the Chosen One had been fulfilled, though not through violence or confrontation, but through Anakin's unwitting role in bringing balance by exposing the last of the Sith. The Republic would heal, reform, and continue. The darkness had been drawn into the light, and this time there would be peace. Master Yoda attacked a Wookiee for not speaking proper Basic.